Hey, welcome back to the Myth and Precious channel, home of the Knox Hollow Wood Shop, Steampunked Out, and Nemesis Gear. We are in the leather shop, and yeah, so this is going to be part 2 of video. The first, I was going to make a one long video about finishing techniques, and it ended up being 40 minutes long, so splitting that into 3 parts instead. So this is part 2, the continuation. If you want to catch part 1, where I talk about the airbrush, I show a couple of different airbrushes and the parts and some basic information on how they work. You can go back by clicking that link and watch the first part. If you want to go ahead and continue on, then we're going to go straight into the airbrush in the spray booth, and I will show you all the stuff that I said I was going to show you at the end of the last video, and we'll just pick up where we left off. Okay, so we're in the spray booth. It's actually pretty tight in here. This is only like a 6 by 6 by 6 square. Just frames, and I've got this painter's plastic sealant in with a door. I have a fan that is an intake fan, and I also have a fan that blows out. So the fans, it's important to have an airflow that's going out the building for this. Let's talk safety here, okay? This stuff, I mean, for the most part, it's not as bad as some of the things that, you know, when you spray paint cans and stuff like that, but this is not good to breathe. You don't want it collecting in your shop. And I use more than just the dye. I'll spray leather sheen. I use this as a finish a lot. But it's really important to not have this building up a big haze in your shop. The other thing that's really important is, if you're going to airbrush, is having a good respirator. You want one that does work for organic vapors for this. So if you're spraying your dye, you got to look and see what's in the dye. But the thing is that when they put on their bottle, you know, the cautions and stuff like that, they give you directions about how to apply it. They're talking about applying it by hand. And so if you're spraying this, then a lot of times, you know, it doesn't even tell you. It says using a well-ventilated area, but it doesn't tell you necessarily what kind of problems that this can be if you breathe it in. They'll tell you what to do if it gets on your skin or in your eyes. But I've forgotten before, and let me tell you, it's worse than just having colored snot when you got to blow your nose later. So wear a respirator. Anytime that you're spraying stuff, you just, especially if you don't know what's in it, it's better safe than sorry. So get you a good respirator with organic vapors and stuff. I am using Phoebing's leather dye. It's not their pro dye. I get more variety of color with their leather dye. And then a lot of times I'll mix this. I know my red is about a 50-50 mix of yellow and red. My green is the same. It's a 50-50 mix of yellow and green, and you'll see how those come out if you've seen some of the pictures on Facebook. So I actually use yellow quite a bit, just mixing with other colors to lighten them. Obviously, you can't mix it with purple. If you don't know color theory, get you a color wheel and learn the color wheel. It's going to help. These are complementary colors. If you mix them, you're going to get mud. It's not going to work. So in order to get this purple, this is the purple that I use is mixed. It's still Phoebing's leather dye, but it's their purple looks to me almost like dark blue coming out of the bottle. It doesn't even look purple. So I actually mix it. I think it's somewhere around 50% red and 10% purple, and then another 40% of dye reducer. Oh gosh, here's the bottle for one. It's just dye reducer, which I think it's pretty much just rubbing alcohol would work, but I haven't tried it. I just stick with this. It's easy. So you can mix your colors with this ahead of time, but you can also do a little bit of that with the airbrush because you're controlling how much dye goes on here. Since we're not saturating this, the dye is not going to penetrate as deeply into the leather as if it would if you were doing your dauber. But because you're getting a more even coat that you can spray and come back and touch up, that's okay. So I think it uses less dye in the long run as well. But anyways, the other problem with this, once I get the fans on and the air compressor and stuff on, it's going to be really loud in here, so doing any audio is going to be kind of pointless. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and turn all that on, start the video, and then I'll do a little bit of a voiceover and talk about what I'm doing.
Okay, so I've sped this up quite a bit just because some of it's repetitive, but as you can see, the dye sprays through very evenly, very smoothly, and I'm getting a really nice bright color on here. The reason that's happening is I started with a very pale, bright, almost as light as I can get it leather surface to start with. So anytime that you're doing dye, it's translucent, so it's coloring what's already there. So if you start with something that's already been light burned, or is already kind of a tan, darker color, you're not going to get a vibrant color like this. So that's something to be aware of when you're spraying this. And I kind of mirrored on the backs the same as what I'm doing on the front, and I'm also making sure to get the edges as well. For the edges of leather, I'm hitting that. It's actually kind of hard to do this in front of the camera because there's not a lot of space in this spray booth, and I don't normally hold it up in the air to spray it like at this angle, so it's a little bit weird. But in between these colors like this, I'm using the isopropyl just rubbing alcohol, and I spray that through. A lot of times I'll spray a little water through and then rubbing alcohol through in between each color, and that cleans that nozzle out so that I don't get the colors bleeding together. And that's important, especially if you're going from light to dark or dark to light, or if you're spraying black, it'll get mixed into that nozzle. And so stopping to clean this, at the very least, running some alcohol through there is super important. But overall, as you can see, I'm getting some really nice color fades. You can really control the amount of dye that goes on there, and then where those colors overlap. I like to start, if I'm doing this, I don't normally get this fancy where I'm doing multiple colors. But for these, I was playing around with some different stuff. So, and I'm just spraying black on the back side because I am going to be antiquing this, and it's going to go onto a black leather pouch. So that kind of helps. But for some of the other stuff, I just do a black fade around the edges if I'm not going to antique it, and that gives it a really nice look too. So you can kind of see how that works.
Okay, so one of the other great things about spraying the dye and using the standard leather dye instead of the pro dye is that because of all the alcohol in that dye, it dries pretty quick anyways, and because you're spraying it on, you're not saturating it so deeply, it actually dries really quick. So 30 minutes is good, 20-30 minutes, but honestly, I mean, this is, after about 5 minutes or so, you can still buff this and it'll work fine. What I've got set up for my buffing wheel, I've got just a tabletop drill press, and I've got different. These are just car buffers, with a drill press attachment. I pick these up at the auto parts store or order them online or whatever. But as far as colors go, I write on the back. For instance, I try to use wheels that are generally the same colors, so that I don't end up, if you use something on purple and you try to use it on yellow, you're going to end up with mud. So because it's going to buff and smear it, whatever's left on here is going to smear everywhere. So I've already got, this one is set up for the blues, so plain blues and purples and stuff on this one. Since this one's mostly purple, I'm going to go ahead and buff this one, and then the other one is red and yellow, so I'll switch out to my red wheel for it, so that I don't get any purple dye on my red. So. Easy peasy, it makes it quick when you're doing a bunch at one time. I do pretty much all my buffing with these, whether they're belts or large pieces or whatever. And this works really well, and just having a bunch of these and some spares set up. Eventually, I think I've been using this black one for about 3 or 4 years. It's about ready to switch to something else. Honestly, what I'll do for black is I'll find the one that's the most used and switch it out to black and get a new one and make it for, say, my blue or whatever, just because. But anyways, they last for a long time. You can buff a whole lot of stuff with them. All right. Now all we got to do is put our resist on here, and then after the resist dries, I'll show you all the antiquing. So let's get some resist on. I am spraying that too, just because it's easier. I can get a nice thin, even coat as opposed to putting it on by hand. The resist I found, well, I'll show you those. Let me jump in the shop and I'll show you. Okay, so I'm actually using a couple of different resists that I've tried. I tell you, I like a little some things about both of them, and dislike some things about both of them. What I started with, I tried this. This is a RTC Sheridan Resist and Finish. I really like this because I can take this straight out of the bottle and it will spray through the airbrush beautifully. I have absolutely no problems with it. It goes on pretty even. It's easy to use, and as you know, the results work really well. The other thing that I use is this Phoebing's Pro Resist. This works pretty well too. The only thing is it's a little bit thicker, and that's something I didn't talk about with the airbrushes. The thickness of what you're spraying through there matters, and when it comes to dye, the dye sprays through straight out of the bottle, no problems. Never had any problems with those at all. But when it comes to paints and stuff, you got to use special airbrush paints, or you have to prepare them in some way, because your paints, like those Angelus paint that's real popular, everybody uses these little bottles of Angelus paints because you get them all different colors. Those are too thick. They are too thick to spray through most of your airbrushes, the finer airbrushes. Unless you're using something that's made to spray thick paint, like a big car sprayer or something like that. But to do detail work, the consistency you want to aim for is about no thicker than milk. So the Pro Resist, I have been thinning that out. I actually just use this empty dye reducer bottle and I thin this out. I used about that much Pro Resist and about that much water, and that thinned it out to about the consistency of milk, and this sprays really well this way, and I have not had any problem spraying this through my Iwata Neo TRN2. So, you know, again, it's going to depend on how your airbrush is set up for doing, like, if I was to use it in the Illustrator brush with the finer tip, it would probably clog up a lot faster. The Be Natural, I had no problems with it. This one, I know when I only sprayed a couple things with it, took the needle out to clean it, and I could tell it was already gumming up. So this tends to gum up the airbrushes a little worse to me, but it's also a lot cheaper to get this Pro Resist. I think it's somewhere close to half the price, or not quite half the price, of this Be Natural. So, you know, you may have to play around with some resists and stuff. If you're having, you know, different results, you can try and see what works for you. I haven't decided which one I'm going to stick with. This one's more expensive, but it's really easy right out of the bottle, so it doesn't take me any time. That's labor to go in and use this Sheridan Resist and Finish. This one, I got real similar results, and I'll show you. Matter of fact, why don't I do this? I'll spray one with the Pro Resist and one with the Sheridan, and show you the difference. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to use this Pro Resist. I'm going to use this on the red one, and then we'll do the Be Natural on the purple one, so you can see how the two compare. Might as well do that as well. And I've just got these. I've got these spray bottles already set up. This has got Pro Resist in it already to go. So we'll get that going, and again, it's going to be a voiceover because you can't hear me with the respirator on and the fans and everything going. So.
Okay, so I sped this one up as well, just because there's not a lot to it. I'm going to start with the Pro Resist here, and as you can see, this is going on. You know, again, I'm trying to hold this so that the camera can see it. When it goes on, it does have kind of a milky color that is going to dry completely clear. I do spray this on the front and the back to seal the leather up, especially since I'm going to be doing the antiquing. So if I do get some antique on the back, I can wash that off pretty easily. But that goes on pretty easily. This RTC Sheridan, like I say, it sprays perfectly right out of the bottle, but you can tell it doesn't have that milky quality. So you can see where you've sprayed it because it's glossy and wet, but sometimes it kind of wants to beat up on the surface a little bit. It's a little bit runnier. So it could be, it's got its pluses and minuses both. So again, I haven't 100% decided which one I want to go with, but as you can see, spraying those through there, this needle is kind of gumming up. You saw me kind of tugging on it. So pulling that needle out occasionally, wiping it down with some rubbing alcohol, putting it back in, and then you just lightly tap it with your finger to seat it. So you don't want to mess up your cone.
All right, thanks for watching. We still have one more part of this video, but as I said at the beginning, we're splitting this up into 3 videos. So the part 3 is going to be, I'm going to put a link right here to part 3, so that way you can continue on this series if you're interested in seeing the next parts. We covered the dye and the resist, how I apply that in this video. In the next video, we're going to do applying the antique and then the finish coat and stuff on that. But anyways, we appreciate you watching, and we will catch you on the next video.